Rangefinder magazine, website, whatever, just released their annual 30 Rising Stars, and this is not an ad for them or anything like that, but I enjoy this contest. There are a lot of people who have, and I also have questions about the value of contests within the realm of photography, but I like this particular contest because it is gallery based. It's not just a single great image and stuff, but because it's connected to newer photographers, that usually means that it's a little bit more trendy, or the looks and stuff that are created within this are a little bit more popular than other contests and stuff. But it's still gallery based, so it's not quite just like this one super trendy image that got a bajillion likes on Instagram or something like that. But it kind of like walks the line between the two of them. I also just enjoy this because I feel like the style of Rangefinder is more akin to the style of wedding photography I often take. I mean, to be 100%, I was nominated for this award twice, and I didn't win or anything, but like, it's my style. Anyway, looking at the the winners of 2022, I have a couple thoughts here on the things that stand out to me. And again, I'm looking at these for myself and things that I find interesting, things that I find inspiring, and things that I would like to consider putting into practice with my own work. So the first thing, and this is very unsurprising, is that everything seemed to be film inspired. But also didn't seem like there's a ton of actual film photos in the winners galleries. That's not a knock, because wedding photography has this weird place that we need to be both high volume and cool, and film is really cool. So like, everybody's going to talk about film. I talk about film all the time, so this is great. And I use a preset that is definitely film inspired as well. But I just found it a little bit funny a lot of like film inspiration, but only 3 or 4 of the galleries seem to include film photos in there. Thing number 2 is that the colors actually felt slightly bolder this year than in past years. If you scroll through Instagram, like, you see a lot of the Utah sepia, or kind of like a lot of muted looks and stuff. And there definitely are some people who had that muted look, but it felt like even the muted colors were still slightly bolder than they were in previous years. And so that was an interesting thing to see and to consider, like, as your personal preset evolves, what does that mean for you? A thing that really was interesting to me was how many low angle photos were in these galleries. I'm 6'1", so I'm not absurdly tall, but I'm pretty tall, and therefore taller than most couples and most clients that I work with. And so this is something that stood out for me, just because maybe I should be considering like adjusting my angles more often. Like, do I need to be getting down low in order to be able to photograph these clients better and stuff like that, or at least to change my angles a little bit? I'd say there were so many that were like basically right at eye line or right below it, which definitely does also create this like effect of like making them feel more of a hero, which is good, just because your clients should always be your heroes. And so I don't know, it's just something that I'm going to be thinking about. Another thing that really stood out to me was how many posed, unposed moments. Like, all the photos that were posted in all the galleries, there were very few photos that were actually like staring down the lens, which is unsurprising. Like, that's very on trend and stuff. But there also was a lot of photos that, like, to the untrained eye, to like a client is looking at those and like, oh, you're so good at capturing these casual moments and stuff. And I'm looking at these and like, oh, none of these are casual. These are definitely intentionally chosen, intentionally framed, and then they're making it. I use it when I describe my clients as like a wind-up toy that you sit there and you have to like wind up the scene, get everything just right, and then you're gonna let them go and let them like play in the scene and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of that in this, and so it was really good to see, and also like just a reminder of how important that is. Of like if you do it right, if you wind that toy correctly, then your clients feel comfortable, feel like being themselves. And so I think what makes those like casual moments feel authentic is that it feels like those are the real people inside of the scene that you concocted for them. Concocted? Concocted. Is that it? Whatever. Moving on. It also is a really good reminder to look through all of these galleries and see how many of these photos were very simple. Now, whether that's really good composition to make sure that there's no extra elements in them, or a lot of Photoshop to take out distracting elements and then like cloning or not cloning, but like burning and dodging and stuff to bring shadows down or bring highlights up to eliminate those distractions. I just was like it really stood out to me how simple these images are and how good they are at making sure that there's one solid subject in each one of these images. Again, that's, all these things are the tastes of the photographer and the tastes of the judges. And that's not to say there weren't chaotic images. Like, there definitely are chaotic images, but the chaotic images were supposed to be chaotic, and the clean, simple images were very clean and simple. And that delineation, just like separation between the two, was a really good reminder as I look forward to, as I'm creating those various moments, in the mindset of being able to ask myself, is this a chaotic photo? Is this a simple photo? And then being able to really lean into those things to make them as well as possible. And the last thing I noticed was there's less long exposures this year. Last year has been the year of like the slow shutter, which I definitely did a lot of this last year. And there was not quite as much of that in these galleries. So I wonder if that trend is kind of is kind of on the outswing. So as we finish here, I do want to show 3 images that I found particularly inspiring, and I just wanted that personally I want to be thinking about as I look forward to 2023. The first one is by Miriam Menard of Crémieux Photo. I don't speak French, so I'm sorry if I just butchered that. But I love this image. I love like the light streaming in. I don't know if that's natural light or if those are strobes and stuff that are set up, but it makes it look like window light. Plus the atmosphere that is in these photos and stuff is just like absolutely stunning. And just really makes this like party vibe. And yeah, I just really love this photo. And again, low angle. But also, even through all of this, like really retaining shadow detail well, bouncing across the whole scene. Kind of a colorful but muted color palette once again. Just really like it. There's going to be a theme. All 3 photos, like, you're going to be like, oh, I can see what Joe's into right now. This photo here by Andrea Lorenza, I really enjoy, for kind of those similar reasons. It's the dark feel, but yet also retaining all of those details, that you can see the shadow, you can see the bridesmaid who's tying on there. You can see all the details on her dress, and it's bright and she pops, and that's where your eye goes first. But then once you're there, there's no details that are lost. There's nothing being clipped. There's nothing so deep in the shadows that you lose it, or at least intentionally. And then I really like David Conte's photos here, just because I think he's Scottish. Yeah. I love Scotland, which, very different from Seattle, but also notoriously rainy and cold and dark. And so I was inspired by a few of his images just because they felt like ways that I could pull things interesting into a scene, like this one here with a couple holding the lanterns at like twilight, whether that's sunrise twilight or evening twilight. Just gives that couple just a little bit more of a pop and stuff. It makes me think about ways that I can add more life, add more interest to photos, especially on the more dreary scenes, just to give more elements and more pieces to put together to make it work. I also really enjoyed this photo, which again, this is very similar to that first one here. Completely different vibe. It's a very serene photo, but it's the same deal of it's like the soft highlights, but yet maintaining shadow details, and then a good composition here. You can kind of see the threes. It makes a vertical angle looking down there from the mom down to the dad's head with the bride's head in the middle. It's just really good composition. Actually kind of makes it X there with the light coming back through the other way. Just really, it's a good image and something to pull for.